Hey, it's Todd Gross, and I want to just show you a little bit about using DaVinci Resolve with the MiClones, how to take out the green background manually in case the software you're using it with doesn't automatically take the green background out. So that's a consideration that you should make, of course, that you can use these for many different projects. It doesn't have to be with specific software that works with MiClones right out of the box. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is show this to you in three parts. First, I'm going to import into DaVinci Resolve, which is the free video editing software, one of the MiClones. You just saw that MiClone a moment ago. Then I'm going to show you older training that I made in the earlier version of DaVinci Resolve. The reason I'm going to show you that is it just went really well. It was a very substantial training on how to remove the green background surrounding the, it wasn't a MiClone, it was just a spokesperson at the time. And then we'll finish this off by bringing the MiClone back and working a little bit with him again. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to import. I'm doing a file import media. It's off on the top left-hand side of your screen. Couldn't quite see it, but I just did a file import media, and there is our baby boomer right here. That's what it's called, this one. And what you have basically in Resolve is you have an area where you hold the media. That's on the left. At the bottom, if you look at the bottom of your screen here, you'll see there's a little tab. That tab is for the media. And it looks like I was in the editor. Look at that. I skipped right to the editor. Okay, this is to the left, that's the media. Then the next is the editor. And then there's the color, and that would be like the green screen removal. Then there's a music tab, and then there's the Publish tab. Okay, so let's start with the media. So let's do this again. Let's erase him and do it again, just so that you get the hang of it. File, import media is what I'm doing. I'm picking up our baby boomer, and there it is. So now we have that right here. Okay, now we're going to go to the next tab, which is the editor. We're going to drag our baby boomer into the timeline, which is here. Now in the editor, this is the place where you would actually combine this clip with others or edit it down. This is something that I'm going to leave for you to research in terms of the full use of DaVinci Resolve in other training. That's beyond what we're doing right here. So we actually can move on now to the color portion of this edit today. We don't actually have to do anything in the editor, but I wanted to show you the normal sequence is to start with the media that's on the left at the bottom. I know it's very small, but again, I'm clicking that once again, showing you that we imported, all right? And then we have the media holding area here. The next thing we did is we moved to the editor, which is where you would shorten this clip or combine it with others or do any editing features on it. And now the third thing that we can move straight along to now would be to play with the color of this, and that includes removing this green screen background if we wanted to do that. All right, so we're in the color area now, which is the third tab at the very bottom of your screen. I don't know why they make this so small, these tabs, but in order to remove the green around this guy, I'm actually going to defer to my earlier training where I imported a spokesperson. The reason I'm going to defer to that clip, as I mentioned before, is it just went really well. I actually gave such a good explanation that I don't think I can match it again. We're going to take a look at that video, and then I'll come back and we'll do more with our MiClone. I'm in DaVinci Resolve here right now. This is it on the upper right. When I first loaded it, it did ask me if I wanted to have the look and feel of Adobe Premiere or Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve previously. I chose, in this case, Adobe Premiere because I think that will follow closest with the video training that we have underneath this video. Actually, what I do now, or I already started to do, is I loaded a background for a video. Okay, my video is right here. It's actually the one that you're watching today, right here, and I'm going to show you how I split it. So there it is. I put it right in there, and now we're going to work on that in just a moment. Now, while I have your attention on me bringing stuff in, I want to show you what I've done here. There's 4 tabs at the bottom: Media, Edit, Color, and Deliver. I'm not going to dwell on this now, but it's pretty obvious. The media is where you store your media. The edit is where you're going to perform editing on a timeline. The color is where we're going to be doing our green screen work. And delivering is going to be where we render and push the video out to the public or our hard drive. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is go to Edit. When I go to Edit, I have the timeline here on the bottom, and I have right here the various different pieces that I'm going to use. Now I want to drag in, obviously, my video. That's very important to do. And then if you look closely, you'll see that the video is in 2 parts. The video part, which is denoted as V1, and the audio part, which is denoted as A1. If I could show you on the upper right here, there's actually a little control. Do you see this right here? If I click on this, it's going to give me a choice for showing audio waveforms. Now, the reason why I'd want to do that is in case I wanted to split the video, or split the audio, I should say. And there's a reason for that. I mean, when you see your audio, you can figure out where to actually cut it, because it starts and stops. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring an image underneath. All right, and in order to do that, I would just go like this. So in this case, I would be against a house here. Now, in order to bring it underneath, what I really need to do is lift the video up. When we lift the video up, notice it's split from the audio because all the audio defaults to the bottom. But now that I've lifted the video up, I can now slide my image in place. I could stretch it out by just clicking on the edge and dragging it. And now basically I'm pretty much set. Now I'm pretty much set, but I do want to show you later the Kelly green and how that looks. And why you would do that for VideoPal. That is to make a bright green backdrop rather than this kind of dull green backdrop that's already behind me. So I'm going to put that here. So we'll actually have 2 backgrounds going. One will be the green and one will be a house, and we'll compare them. So we're all set up now to go to the color tab where we'll do our chroma key work. Okay, we're inside DaVinci Resolve's color area, and we're particularly going to be doing green screen work, so we're going to need to set up what's called an alpha channel. Everything is very similar to other software such as Camtasia, but it's a little bit more hands-on, so it gets a little more complicated looking, even though it's not really that much more complicated. But let me show you the way to do it, the simplest way to do it. So the first thing that is suggested to do by all the videos that I've watched, curating all those videos and condensing them, is to create what's called a new node. And I'll explain what a node is in just a moment. You can't see it, but at the very top of my screen, I have in the menu, and you could kind of see it now, it says nodes, and then it says add serial node. You see that at the top here. I'm going to click on that, and what it does is it adds this right here. Now, what a node is basically a work area. So we're passing from the top video, which is right here. That's the video that we originally put on top. And it passes the output of color right here. It's passing through one work area into our latest work area. And then what we want to do is not only pass the color, but now we also want to pass an invisible channel, also known as an alpha channel. And that's what we're going to do. And the way to do that is to do a click. Anywhere in here is to click, right click, and then add alpha output, okay? The alpha output is denoted by this blue area right here, this little blue output, okay? So we have the color here, and then we have the transparency as it's called here, and the way to connect that to your work area is just by clicking on the triangle there and taking this line and attaching it there. So there's our output, okay? So this is our work area, the node, and it's going to be sending a transparency and the color channel both out. All right, so that's important. You'll see why in just a moment. That's the first step. So that differs from what we've seen in other pieces of software. The next step is to pick the eyedropper. The eyedropper is right here, and that's called the qualifier. But the very first step is to use your eyedropper, and we're set up in doing that right here. You see where the eyedropper is kind of pointing into what looks like a pool of water. because there's concentric circles. That means that you're set up right now to just select any color. So we're going to go back up here and select a color to disappear. All right. So which color should we select? Well, let's select something in between the darkest green and the lightest green. Let's pick something right here. All right, I've clicked this, and immediately you notice there's something wrong. As we take a look at the workspace right here, you see that I've disappeared, not the background. And that's basically what happens during your first step. But that's easy to reverse. We go back down to the selection range here, and you can see this reversal tab. This tab is actually called Invert, and we're going to click it. And now you can see it's starting to get better, but we still haven't gotten rid of the green here. We can still see right here in our workspace that we haven't gotten rid of it there either. Now, when we get rid of it here, it's going to show a background. When we get rid of it here, it's just going to show the transparency. It will just be blank. It'll shine through to this gray nothingness, all right? Well, this will become more clear in just a moment when I do the following step. The next step is what I like the best, and that's clicking this right here. That eyedropper lets you choose more colors. So you see the eyedropper and a plus. Think more. The plus means more. So I'm going to click that. Now I'm going to choose more colors to disappear. So I click this. 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 And you're saying, wait a minute, Todd, why aren't we seeing the background? Actually, we are seeing the background. Remember, this is what I showed at this part of the video. One of the reasons why I loaded this house as one of my backgrounds is because I wanted to show you so that you don't get confused that the house is there. All right? You see, there's the house, there's the garage, but I haven't gotten rid of all the green in front of it. I could still try to click that green with the eyedropper, but I haven't gotten rid of every single speck. Well, how do I do that? How do I get rid of the rest of that green, those specks that are left? How do I make it that right around me, right here, is going to turn all beige gray and not be green anymore? Because both of those things are what you're striving for. All right, well, the way is to go now to this. Remember in Camtasia when I said you can actually control the tolerance and almost ignore everything else? And that's the most important thing, to move left and right. You see that right here, okay, on the right-hand side of Camtasia? Well, that's basically what we're doing as well as we take a look at this software when it comes to the hue and the controls. Because what we're going to do is pick more colors than just the narrow color that we've so far focused in on. And the way to first do that is to click over where it says soft and then make that bigger by scrolling to the right. See how I'm scrolling left to right and making that bigger? Now, while I was doing that, the green was disappearing. And if that doesn't do it, then you go to width right here, and you scroll to the right, and it widens the group of colors that gets removed. Okay, hi, I'm back with the MiClone. Basically, there is something that we didn't do earlier that I remembered while I was watching the clip. We have to put a background in. So I've chosen this one. All I did is I went back to the media bin. That's the lower left, or they call it media storage. Lower left tab right here. Little tiny tab all the way on the left. And now we're in the media storage area. I did File, Import Media, and I imported this guy right here, this studio background. All right, now we're going to move to editing. And in editing, let me just remove all the work I did when you weren't looking. Right? Okay, so what we do first is we want to put the background in first. And we're going to put it down here somewhere. And then we're going to put our foreground above it. And we're going to want to remove the green so that we can see the background. In order to do that, one thing I have to point out is that our clips are not matching right now. I could either add more background so that the amount of time that the background is showing is the same as the foreground, or I could shorten the amount of time of the MiClone foreground. So let's do that. I'm just dragging it over. I clicked on the edge, I held down my mouse, and now everything is matching up. Okay? So we're pretty much done with editing. We didn't really need the editing very much other than to place the foreground and to place the background. Now let's go over to the color area again. All right, now we're in the color area, and we want to get rid of the green. So do you remember what we have to do? I have to go to my menu and click on Nodes, Add Serial Node. That's what I did just here. And now I'm going to right-click and add Alpha Output. Then I'm going to connect those two. That sounds complicated, but it becomes second nature. It's such an easy thing to do. So that's not going to be hard at all. And that's going to allow us to get rid of the green. All right, next, we have to pick the eyedropper. Remember that? We're going to pick the eyedropper right here. We're going to click the green. And that eyedropper didn't work because I forgot I have to click this right here. The one where the eyedropper is in the pool. Then I click that. And remember what happens? It shows the wrong thing, so we have to reverse it. That is over here. I showed this with the spokesperson myself just a bit earlier. We reverse it. And now we are almost done. You can see a little bit of green is left around our MiClone, and we want to get rid of that. Now, I'll tell you, I've been experimenting with this, and there's different ways that you could get rid of it. You could either click on this eyedropper here and look for the right green to try to remove, but that didn't work so well for me. You see what I mean? And the thing, of course, that I taught you is the most likely key is to go right here and go back and forth, but that doesn't do anything in this case. And I showed you that in the last video, last part of this video. But I've been experimenting with all of these. I just experiment left, right on everything. Okay, now by playing with all these controls, I was eventually able to get rid of this green halo. And the way that I found to do it was to play with the saturation section, all right? Which is interesting. And then to move back to playing around with the other controls. So in this case, what I did, and please forgive me if this sounds complicated, but it really is just a question of playing with all the various different controls if you have trouble removing the green color. And in this case, I found that the saturation worked best if I took the low end and moved it to 0. You can see I got rid of almost all the green right there. Or one other thing I tried is I reset saturation with this reset tab right here so that there was nothing. And then from there to play with this again, to play with our hue left and right. So I went back to soft like this, and I widened it a little bit, and I was able to get rid of all the green. And now I have a perfect MiClone. Just as a review, once again, what I did is I reset the saturation by clicking this little backwards arrow, and then I played with this as I normally would before, where it says soft under hue, and I just widened it a little bit so that this is now covering a bit more of the green. And that's all it took. From here, of course, you'll want to save your clip. You'll want to publish it. That would be the last tab all the way on the right, this little rocket ship here. And you'd pick custom, which is to put the file on your own computer, or YouTube or Vimeo.